America is standing on the edge of something enormous, something the headlines aren't explaining, but millions can feel in their bones. Prices are rising faster than paychecks. Over 60% of households can't handle a $500 emergency, and more than 83 million jobs are now threatened by automation. Electricity bills are climbing, rent is exploding, grocery shelves feel artificial, and the dollar buys less every year. This isn't a rough patch. It's a structural unraveling. From weakened currency to engineered food to an economy running on borrowed time, every warning sign points to the same conclusion. The real crisis hasn't even started yet. What's happening in America right now isn't just economic stress or political noise. It's something deeper, a collapse of meaning itself. People are waking up with this strange, heavy awareness that the world they were taught to trust no longer matches the world they're living in. The values that once defined stability, hard work, discipline, saving, planning, suddenly feel disconnected from reality. When someone works 40 or 50 hours a week and still can't afford a $1,700 rent, a $600 car payment, or a $5 loaf of bread, the mind naturally starts questioning everything that once felt unquestionable. For decades, the system relied on belief. Belief that effort leads to progress, that the economy rewards consistency, that your future expands if you keep doing the right things. But the numbers have flipped on people. The median American now has less than $500 in savings. Over 60% live paycheck to paycheck in the richest country on earth. Credit card debt just crossed $1.3 trillion while wages failed to keep up with even basic inflation. When you see the math breaking down in your own life, the illusion breaks with it. That's why everything feels fake, because the outcomes no longer match the promises. And the confusion isn't psychological weakness, it's a rational response. You're told the economy is strong, yet your grocery bill jumps 27% in 4 years. You hear about record stock market highs while your electricity bill quietly doubles. You're told America is recovering, but millions can't manage a $400 emergency without going into debt. People are sensing the contradiction between official narratives and lived reality, and that gap is creating a kind of emotional whiplash across the country. This collapse of meaning isn't just about money. It's about people realizing that the structure around them no longer supports a stable life. A college degree no longer guarantees opportunity. A full-time job no longer guarantees dignity. A lifetime of effort no longer guarantees security. When the foundation that guided your entire life begins to dissolve, the world naturally feels artificial. The rules changed, but no one told the public. And now, Americans are left confronting a truth they never expected. The system didn't break suddenly. It was hollowing out slowly. And now, the emptiness is finally showing. This is the moment where the feeling of nothing is real begins. Not from imagination, but from finally seeing what was always beneath the surface. Once people begin realizing the system no longer produces the outcomes it once promised, the next realization hits even harder. The money they depend on isn't anchored to anything real. The US financial system works only because people collectively agree to believe in it. A dollar has value not because it's backed by silver or gold, but because the public accepts it as worth something. That acceptance is the last thread holding the system together. And today, that thread is thinning. Most Americans don't realize how dramatic the shift has been. In 1964, a quarter was made of solid silver. Its value came from its metal. Today, a quarter is copper-coated with nickel, worth only a few cents in materials. In 1971, the US fully detached from the gold standard. At that moment, the dollar stopped being a claim on something tangible and became a claim on faith. A $1 bill is now backed by nothing except confidence. And confidence is fragile. You can see this fragility in the numbers. Since the 1970s, the dollar has lost over 85% of its purchasing power. A $100 bill today buys what $15 used to buy. Median rent has climbed past $2,000 in major cities, but the dollar in your hand didn't gain value. It lost it. That's why people feel poorer, even when the government reports growth. Growth measured in weakened dollars is not real prosperity. It's inflation disguised as progress. The deeper issue is that the system expands money faster than it creates value. The US has printed over $8 trillion in new currency in the past few years, yet wages didn't remotely keep pace. More dollars chasing the same goods doesn't lead to abundance, it leads to erosion. When people feel their money evaporating faster than they can earn it, the illusion becomes obvious. And this is where the silent panic begins. People are discovering that the money in their bank account isn't a store of value. It's a diminishing asset being devalued every year. When the foundation of daily life, rent, food, savings, depends on a currency that weakens with time, trust collapses. Not all at once, but gradually, then suddenly. The same sense of unreality people feel in their everyday lives is rooted in this financial truth. The system is built on belief, and that belief is now breaking. When the value of money becomes uncertain, the next shock comes from realizing that even the essentials money is supposed to provide, food, health, basic nutrition, have quietly transformed into something unrecognizable. Americans are beginning to understand that their food supply is no longer built around nourishment, but around industrial efficiency, chemical preservation, and visual perfection at the expense of everything else. The result is a system where food looks real, smells real, and feels real, yet behaves nothing like actual food should inside the human body. You can see the shift just by looking at what lines grocery store shelves. Nearly 70% of processed foods contain bioengineered ingredients. Over 90% of supermarket meat is packaged with preservatives to maintain its bright red color. Even fruits and vegetables, once symbols of health, now carry residues of pesticides, wax coatings, gas treatments, and ripening chemicals designed to make them look fresh long after their nutritional value has collapsed. This isn't farming, it's manufacturing disguised as nature. Americans now spend more than $5,700 a year on food, yet the quality they receive is often lower than what people in far poorer countries eat daily. Clean food has become a luxury product. A gallon of organic milk can cost $8. A small pack of organic chicken can hit $15. Meanwhile, the cheaper versions are artificially enhanced to survive long distribution chains and maintain a perfect appearance under fluorescent lights. The cost difference isn't about quality, it's about access. Real food exists, but not for the average household budget. What disturbs people most is the physical effect. Despite eating more, many feel more tired, more inflamed, more sluggish. It's not imagination. Chemicals like nitrates, phosphates, and preservatives disrupt gut function and immune response. Artificial colors and stabilizers exist solely to preserve shelf life, not human health. Even fresh produce can be weeks old, treated to prevent decay until it reaches the consumer. This realization connects directly to the larger sense of unreality spreading across the country. When the food meant to sustain life becomes engineered, synthetic, and detached from nature, trust in the entire system erodes further. People feel like they're feeding their bodies something that looks real but functions like a simulation, and the health consequences are becoming impossible to ignore. Once people realize the food they buy is engineered for profit instead of health, the next truth becomes unavoidable. The entire structure of daily life has been redesigned to extract more from them while giving less in return. The cost of living trap is not a temporary hardship. It's a permanent economic environment where expenses rise faster than wages by design, leaving the average American stuck in a loop that feels impossible to escape. Housing is the clearest example. In many cities, the median rent has crossed $2,000 per month, far beyond what a typical income can sustain. Even outside major metros, average rent has climbed over 30% in just a few years. Yet real wages only grew by a fraction of that. A full-time worker earning $45,000 a year now spends over half of their income just to keep a roof overhead. This isn't mismanagement, it's structural imbalance. Transportation is no better. The average car payment recently hit $738 for new vehicles and $532 for used ones. Numbers that would have been unthinkable a decade ago. Auto insurance is up double digits nationwide. Gas remains volatile. Owning a basic means of mobility has become a financial burden instead of a normal part of life. Utilities add another layer of pressure. Electricity bills have surged as energy companies raise rates to cover their own rising infrastructure and fuel costs. Even water bills are climbing in cities already struggling with outdated pipes and failing treatment plants. An American household that once spent $200 on monthly utilities can now see that number push toward $350 or more with no warning. Then there's medical care, childcare, and groceries, each absorbing bigger portions of a shrinking paycheck. It creates a cycle where every extra dollar earned disappears into rising essentials before people ever feel it. This is why millions say life feels heavier, more exhausting, more unfair. The math no longer works. People aren't failing to budget. The system is too expensive to survive in without constant stress. And when the basics of living consume everything, it becomes clear that the cost of living crisis isn't just financial, it's psychological. It drains optimism, erodes motivation, and convinces people that no amount of effort will ever be enough. As the cost of living outpaces the ability to earn, the next pillar holding society together begins to crumble: stable work. For decades, the American middle class depended on predictable jobs, gradual raises, and long-term career paths. But today, that structure is collapsing in real time. Work is no longer a ladder. It's a treadmill that speeds up each year while the ground underneath erodes. What people are experiencing is not ordinary economic fluctuation. It's a structural contraction of opportunity. In a country with over 167 million working-age adults, more than 60 million are now in low-wage or unstable positions. Even with unemployment figures appearing low, millions are underemployed, piecing together part-time hours, contract roles, gig work, and temporary assignments. The official numbers hide the reality that the workforce has been hollowed out from the inside. Traditional entry-level jobs, once the gateway into the middle class, have quietly disappeared. Corporate consolidation eliminated thousands of administrative roles. Retail automation replaced cashiers and clerks. Logistics companies optimized away full-time staff in favor of contract labor. Even positions requiring degrees have become unstable, with companies freezing hiring or shrinking departments to cut costs. The earnings gap exposes the truth. The median American worker earns roughly $4,200 per month before taxes, yet the average monthly expenses for housing, transportation, healthcare, and basic necessities can easily exceed $4,600. This means millions are employed, but financially drowning. The paycheck covers survival, not progress. And without progress, the idea of a middle class collapses. What makes this even more destabilizing is the loss of predictability. Companies restructure constantly. Departments vanish overnight. Workers with 10 or 15 years at a firm can be removed with a single email. The psychological security that once made the American workforce confident, the belief that effort equals stability, is gone. People now work under the constant awareness that nothing is guaranteed. This erosion of stability feeds directly into the national sense of unreality. When a society's jobs provide neither security nor mobility, the foundation that once held communities together dissolves. The middle class isn't shrinking because people stopped working hard. It's shrinking because the system that once rewarded work has fundamentally changed, faster than anyone was prepared for. The collapse of stable work didn't happen in isolation. It accelerated because a new force entered the economy faster than anyone expected: artificial intelligence. Unlike past technological shifts that unfolded over decades, this one is dismantling roles in real time. AI is not coming for jobs in the future. It's already replacing them today, quietly, efficiently, and without hesitation. What makes this transformation so disruptive is the speed. Automation once targeted repetitive, low-skill tasks. Now it targets high-skill, white-collar roles that were once considered untouchable. Companies are adopting AI systems that can review legal documents, generate marketing strategies, process financial data, code software, design websites, and handle entire customer service departments without a single salary or sick day. A single system can perform the workload of dozens of employees at a fraction of the cost. The numbers expose the scale. Analysts estimate that over 80 million U.S. jobs face automation pressure this decade. Already, major firms have quietly cut staff and attributed it to productivity optimization, a phrase that masks the deeper reality. Human roles are being absorbed by software. In some industries, one AI model handles work that once required teams earning a combined $300,000 to $500,000 per year. For corporations, the financial incentive is overwhelming. This shift is not happening with transparency. Workers often learn about the change only when layoffs arrive unexpectedly. Positions vanish not because of poor performance, but because AI can complete tasks instantly without training, breaks, or benefits. The middle management layer, once the backbone of corporate structure, is shrinking as automated systems handle oversight, scheduling, analytics, and reporting. What makes this moment especially unsettling is the overlap with soaring living costs. People are losing roles precisely when survival is more expensive than at any point in modern history. The workforce is being replaced during its most vulnerable period. That combination is unprecedented. This silent coup feeds the larger sense of unreality spreading across the country. When technology begins removing livelihoods faster than new opportunities emerge, a population loses its economic foundation. And once that foundation erodes, the social consequences accelerate quickly. Because a society cannot stabilize itself when its workforce is being phased out in real time. As AI tears through the workforce, another truth becomes impossible to ignore. The entire US economy is now leaning on a technology that is far more fragile than advertised. What looks like innovation is, in reality, a bubble, an enormous one, fueled by investor optimism, cheap credit, and the illusion of infinite scalability. Without it, America's economic growth would be nearly flat. With it, the country is balancing on something that cannot sustain the weight being placed on it. Strip away AI investment and US GDP growth falls from around 2% to close to zero. According to multiple macroeconomic analyses, over 90% of America's recent growth can be traced to AI-related spending, even though the sector represents only about 4% of the economy. This is not healthy expansion, it's concentration. It means the rest of the economic engine, manufacturing, retail, real estate, small businesses, is barely moving, while one sector carries the illusion of national strength. But here's the problem. AI is extraordinarily expensive to operate. Data centers consume unprecedented amounts of energy. A single facility can use as much electricity as a small city and millions of gallons of water monthly. Training complex models costs tens of millions of dollars. Running them daily requires continuous streams of power, cooling, and hardware maintenance. The financial burn rate is staggering. The profits, however, lag far behind. Many AI companies generate enormous hype but minimal revenue compared to their operating costs. Investors keep pouring in billions under the belief that future returns will eventually justify the spending. That logic mirrors every major speculative bubble in history, betting on tomorrow to justify losses today. Meanwhile, most companies deploying AI aren't making more money. They're simply reducing payroll costs by replacing workers. Cutting labor increases short-term margins but shrinks long-term consumer demand. A system cannot grow when the people who buy goods and services are being removed from the income stream. This is why the unease in America feels so widespread. The economy is balancing on a sector that drains resources, inflates valuations, and undermines the very workforce it depends on. It looks powerful from the outside, but the foundation is thin, and everyone can feel the instability beneath it. The danger of relying on an AI-driven economy becomes even clearer when you examine the physical cost holding it up. Behind every model, every data center, every smart system is an infrastructure burden America is not built to handle. AI doesn't run on creativity or innovation. It runs on electricity, water, and a power grid that was already strained before this new technological arms race began. A single large data facility can consume 30 to 50 megawatts of power, the equivalent of a small US city. Multiply that by hundreds of new sites being planned nationwide, and the math becomes alarming. States like Texas, Virginia, and Ohio are already reporting grid stress as AI expansion accelerates. Utilities warn that demand could surge by up to 20% in the next few years, a spike the current infrastructure cannot support without massive upgrades. Water demand is just as severe. Data centers require millions of gallons per month for cooling. In some regions, tech facilities consume more water than local industries or entire neighborhoods. When AI companies install new infrastructure, the surrounding communities often face higher utility bills, water shortages, or new drought vulnerabilities. The public pays so corporations can keep machines cold enough to run. Then there's the energy mix. Despite promises of clean technology, more than 60% of US electricity is still generated from fossil fuels. AI growth is accelerating this dependence, not reducing it. America is burning 20th century fuel to power 21st century algorithms, producing pollution and higher utility costs for ordinary households already struggling with inflation. The true cost appears on every bill shipped to every home. Rising electricity charges, water rate hikes, and grid-related fees quietly added to statements. The average household energy bill has climbed to nearly $450 per month in some regions, not because families used more power, but because the grid is being reshaped around industrial AI demand. This crisis connects directly to the broader national unease. People sense their daily expenses rising, but cannot see the machinery behind it. They feel the weight of a system built for machines rather than citizens. When the infrastructure of a country is reoriented toward feeding a technological boom instead of supporting human life, the population feels the shift instantly, even if they can't yet explain why everything suddenly costs more and delivers less. As infrastructure strains under AI demand and living costs rise beyond reach, the next crisis emerges not in the economy, but in the national psyche. A society begins to fracture when people stop believing the system is built for them. That's what America is experiencing now, a silent breakdown of trust. Millions feel abandoned as institutions fail to deliver stability. People see their bills climb, their jobs disappear, their food lose its integrity, and they instinctively understand that the country they knew is slipping away. The emotional reaction has become impossible to ignore. Anxiety levels are at record highs. Prescriptions for antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications have surged past 40 million annually. Violent outbursts on public transport, hostility in workplaces, social media rage, all symptoms of a population reaching its psychological threshold. When everyday life becomes a financial and emotional pressure cooker, collective behavior changes. The political divide deepens this fracture. Instead of addressing the root causes, rising costs, weakening currency, automation displacement, leaders argue, deflect, and blame. The public watches a government unable to solve basic crises while corporations accumulate power and record profits. Trust dissolves faster when people see billions spent on technology while basic needs become unattainable. This social unraveling links directly to the economic instability beneath it. A population cannot maintain faith in institutions when it experiences decline firsthand. The result is a society living in slow-motion panic, sensing a major turning point approaching but unable to articulate its shape. People aren't imagining collapse. They're reacting to warning signs that grow louder every day. When a country faces weak currency, engineered food, unsustainable energy demands, collapsing job security, and a population losing trust, the outcome becomes predictable. Systems built on confidence fail when that confidence disappears. America is approaching a structural limit, where the pressures across money, labor, infrastructure, and social stability converge into a single breaking point. The next phase is not a dramatic overnight collapse, but a series of cascading failures. Essential services strain. Companies that relied heavily on AI investment face losses once funding slows. Governments struggle to manage rising social tensions with shrinking tax bases. Utilities raise rates to keep grids running. Food quality continues declining as corporations cut production costs further. Households sink deeper into debt as prices outrun paychecks. Each piece pushes the system closer to instability. People can already feel this tightening, not because they read economic reports, but because their lived experience tells the truth before officials do. When a society's foundation weakens simultaneously across its economic, technological, and social pillars, the direction becomes unavoidable, a future defined by volatility, scarcity, and upheaval. This isn't fear-mongering. It's the logical conclusion of trends moving in the same direction. And the public senses it before anyone else. The same way animals feel a storm long before the sky turns dark. America has entered that moment. The warning signs are no longer abstract. They're visible in every bill, every layoff, every shortage, every corporate decision that values machines over humans. The future won't wait. It's already reshaping the country.